Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get all gold for the National B test here on Gran Turismo 7. We'll go through each test and tackle them turn by turn, including braking points, turning points, and acceleration points. I'll have all the details about my setup and time codes in the description down below. In terms of assist, I have them all off except for ABS, which is on default. For traction control, I move it up at 1 for certain grid starts. You'll actually see that happen with the first license test, but other than that, I usually have it at 0. And I also want to note that I'll have both the miles per hour and the kilometers per hour on the bottom of the screen, with miles per hour on the left and kilometers per hour on the right. Now, let's go ahead and get this started. For license test B1, we are doing a start and stop in the Mazda Demio, which is a front wheel drive, meaning that the engine delivers the power to the front wheels. You actually get a bit of wheel spin if you have traction control off when you're starting this test, so you want to turn it on, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. If you are on the controller, what you want to do is press the left or the right to change the multifunctional display on the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Once you get to TCS, which is traction control system, you can then press the up or the down to adjust the values. When we start our test, we'll be at TC1 and then quickly bring it back down to 0 when we get started. So I'm at TC1 right now, and I'm going to mash on the throttle before the test starts. TCS goes down to 0 just after the car starts moving, and you want to shift when the bar fills up, so just as it starts to blink. If you start to rev it out in the Demio, you're going to lose a lot of power, which will negatively affect your acceleration and your speed. Drive in a straight line. Look for the cones on either side of the track just after the 200 meter board up top, and you want to brake just before you reach the cones. Brake in a straight line at full braking power, gradually shifting down to first gear. Now let's go ahead and watch this test without the commentary. For test B2, this is similar to the first one, except we're doing it in the faster Mitsubishi GTO, which is a 4-wheel drive. We can actually get away with having the TC at 0, as this car doesn't need it. It quickly gets off the line from a standing start. And because we're in a faster car, we need a larger braking distance to bring the car back down to 0 miles per hour. Now let's get started with the test. I'm already at full throttle, and I just want to note that I have the TC at 0 because this car is pretty quick off of the line. The test starts, quickly going off of the line, and you want to shift when the bar fills up, just like in the Mazda Demio from the previous test. Now you want to look for the cones on either side of the track, which is just after the 100 meter board, so you want to brake before you pass the cones. Brake in a straight line, braking as much as possible, gradually shifting down to first gear. Now let's watch that again, but without the commentary. For license test B3, we're going to introduce turning using turn 1 at Alsace with a Daihatsu Copen, which is a front wheel drive. It's a pretty slow car, meaning that it is possible to take the first turn flat out, which means you don't lift off our throttle at all. This is where smooth inputs are going to start to come in handy, as that'll help you keep your car's momentum without having it lose control. Now let's get started with the test, and There is something pretty interesting about the Comet, and it's that you actually want to shift earlier than you think. You want to shift when the bar is 25% full, because if you start to rev it out past that, you're going to lose a lot of power, which will negatively affect your acceleration, just like in the first test with the Mazda Demio. Now let's look for a turning point, in which in this case, it's going to be before the end of the guardrail on the left. You can actually see the red dot on the bottom of the screen. That is my turning input, and I am starting to turn in, going flat out, and I'm going to aim for the apex, which is going to be the curb that is on the right. The apex is where you're closest to the inside of the track. And just keep going flat out, just smoothly bringing your steering back to the middle, and you are good to go. Now let's watch that again, but without the commentary. For license test B4, it is just like B3, but we are now in the Audi TT Coupe, which is a fast front-wheel drive car. You want to be a little more patient with this turn, because if you get too aggressive on the throttle early on, your car will not want to turn, which means you're now facing understeer, and you're going to end up going off of the track. Now let's get started with the test. We're going to use the similar turning point as before, but we're going to turn in just a little bit earlier. So we're turning in before the guardrail on the left ends, turning in a bit earlier, but this time we're just going to lift off our throttle, let the car turn in a bit more, and as we're approaching the apex, we're starting to get on the throttle, but you want to be smooth on the throttle, be patient on the throttle, so you don't get understeer. Just taking advantage of the whole width of the track. Now let's go ahead and watch that without the commentary. For test B5, we are in the A112 Abarth going through Tsukuba. And because the Abarth is pretty slow, you can actually go through these corners flat out. It's all about being smooth with your inputs. Let's go ahead and get this started. As soon as you gain control of your car, you want to bring yourself towards the left side of the track to set yourself up for the right turn that is coming up ahead. You want to turn in before the barrier on the left changes color, and you want to smoothly turn in, getting as close as you can to the apex, and you can easily take the left turn flat out. Just keep a nice tight line towards the left. In a moment we'll see this again, but without the commentary. For B6, we're going through the same turns that we used in test B5, but now we're in the Nissan Fairlady Z Z34. This is a front engine wheel drive car, so the rear wheels power this car. And you need to be careful with this car, because even just a little too much throttle input as you go through the turns will make you spin out, and you're going to see that happen now. So now you actually need to first brake for this right turn, and you need to be very smooth on the throttle. Even just a little too much throttle input can have the car step out and then spin out. But let's go ahead and get started with the test. Bring yourself towards the left side of the track, and this time you're going to brake before the barrier on the left changes color. Go at 50% braking power for a short moment and start to turn in right away. As you approach the apex, you want to be very careful getting on the throttle, trying to maintain grip on the car. And as you go through this left turn, you want to lift off our throttle a little bit to maintain grip on the rear tires. And then just bring yourself towards the right, and that is it for this test. For test B7, we are on the back straight of Child Mountain with the Toyota GR86, and we are fast approaching a hard braking zone. The turn that we'll be going through is pretty long, so you want to try to be smooth with your inputs and try to maintain as much speed as possible. Now let's get started with the test, and you're going to be going in a straight line for a while. You can also rev the heck out of this car, but you want to bring yourself towards the right side of the track and brake just after you pass this sign that is on the right. I'll show you where I start to brake in a moment. Right here, brake as much as you can in a straight line. Start to turn in before you pass the big rock that is on the right, and just slowly start to ease off of the brakes as you're still turning in. And as you're going to pass the happy big tree that is on the left, that is when you want to start to gradually get under throttle and slowly start to straighten up your steering inputs. And don't be afraid to give yourself a bit of space between yourself and the walls, because touching the walls will make you fail the test. For test B8, we are at Mount Panorama with the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution, and we are fast approaching Hell Corner, which is the first turn. You want to look for a braking point and a turning point to make your way through the first turn and nail this test. So let's get started with this test. It's a bit more straightforward than the previous two tests. So stay on the right side of the track, and you're going to brake just after you pass the 100 meter board. Brake as much as you can in a straight line, then use the 50 meter board as your turning point, and this is where you want to start to gradually ease off of the brakes. So start turning in right here, and as you approach the apex, you can actually take advantage of this car's four-wheel drive, so it's pretty stable and you can get on the throttle as soon as you hit the apex. Let's go ahead and watch that again without the commentary. For test B9, we are at Dragon Trail Seaside, and we are in the Honda Civic Type R. And this one is a little less straightforward than the previous test, but it's still pretty doable. But make sure you don't brake on the curbs, as that kind of unsettles the car and it'll mess up your braking and your turning points. And I know someone is going to say this, it is possible to cheese this first turn by going way past into the curves, but for simplicity's sake, I am not going to do that for the test clip that I am about to show right now. So let's go ahead and get started with the test. You can still take this first turn flat out, but for simplicity's sake, I'm going to stay in between the white lines. Make sure you brake before the grass on the left ends, and brake on the tarmac, not on the curb. Brake hard in a straight line, and then turn in just after the red area on the left starts. Start to ease off of the brakes. You can actually go a bit deeper into the apex, so where the curb is at, but right around here, this is where you want to start to gradually ease on the throttle. Be careful about getting on the throttle too early, otherwise you risk understeering off of the track, as this car is a front wheel drive. For the final test, we are back at Tsukuba and we are in the Renault Clio RS Trophy. So we're going to be going through a couple of turns flat out, and then we have to brake for a couple of hairpins, and you just want to be a little careful as this car is a front wheel drive and it's really easy to get on the throttle a little too early and end up on the string off of the track. Smooth inputs will also come in handy as it'll help you maintain your speed and get a better time. But let's go ahead and get started with the final test for the National B license. You're going to go through these first 2 turns flat out. You can actually kind of cheese this right turn, but you want to brake as you approach the apex of this mini right turn. So I am braking right here before the curb on the right ends. Brake at full braking power, kind of pointing your car towards the inside part of the track. Turn in as you pass the path on the right, bringing yourself down to second gear and slowly easing off of the brakes. And you can even let the car coast for a moment, so no braking nor throttle input, to let the car turn in a bit more. But as you're starting to point towards the Bridgestone sign, that is when you want to start to gradually get on the throttle and make your way up to third gear. Bring yourself towards the left, brake before the barrier on the left changes color, and you're going to be at 50% braking power for a short moment. Slowly ease off of the brakes as you're turning in, and gradually get on the throttle as you're approaching the apex, and you can take this left turn flat out and you should be good to go. Now let's watch that again, but without the commentary. And that is it for this guide on getting gold medals on the National B license test here on Gran Turismo 7. Hopefully this guide helped you out. I'll soon be releasing another video for getting gold medals on the National A test pretty soon. But I just want to thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you to Playseat for supporting the channel as well. This is Mr. MCA, the world's most OK player, and I'll see you in the next video.